Hello and welcome to a special edition of Snakes Territory. I am Jesse Friedman, live from Petco Park after the Diamondbacks just beat the San Diego Padres 6-3. And as always, I am joined by the one and only Jack Sommers, who is back in Arizona. Jack, we're we're switching roles here. I am putting on my reporter hat once again, and I am out at the ballpark while you are back cozy at home in Arizona. But Jack, we certainly have no shortage of things to talk about here as the Diamondbacks win a game and yet lose quite a bit in the process, as we'll get into later.
Cozy, you're the one in San Diego, dude. I mean,
that's fair.
I'm in Arizona. It's over 100 degrees, man. You get to go to San Diego. So I don't know about so cozy.
Yeah, I think I got that backwards. That's fair. I'm just trying to cushion the blow for you here, so you're not too jealous. But yeah, we're gonna
listening to all the broadcasters as they get on. Oh, we're here from beautiful, cool, sunny San Diego. I think everyone watching at home must hate them.
Yeah, that's fair. And yeah, you might hate me to some extent right now too, which I can't really blame you for. But yes, we will talk about the Shelby Miller news. I have some updates on that. We'll talk about Ketel Marte, who was scratched in this game or before this game as well. But let's go ahead and start with some positives here, Jack. The Diamondbacks win this game 6-3. Zac Gallen was really the big story once again. He threw 6 innings, 9 strikeouts. He allowed 1 run in the first inning, but it was an unearned run. And he continues to look a whole lot more like the pitcher that, it's been a while since we've seen that version of him, but he is looking more like the pitcher that we've mostly been used to here in his Diamondbacks tenure.
Yeah, I texted Jesse when during the game, and there was one at bat. He threw a couple of changeups down below the zone, fell below 2-0. Boom! I'm just going to throw a fastball right down the pipe, and get a fly out. I mean, I'm loving seeing this version of Zac Gallen the last couple outings, where he's not afraid to put his fastball in the zone, and it's meaning everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Torey Lovullo, after the game, I just talked to a few minutes ago. He said that he feels like Zac is less predictable right now. So there seems to be maybe a pitch mix element to this as well. Gallen continues to praise James McCann for his work behind the plate. Torey Lovullo, very complimentary of the work that McCann has done as basically Zac Gallen's personal catcher ever since he got here. And I mean, that's been really big. I guess sometimes it's hard to know exactly how much impact catchers are having as part of the game calling process, but it seems pretty significant here, Jack. I mean, Zac told us once again tonight that he only shook once the entire game, with James McCann doing the majority of the work there. So, you like to see those guys on the same page, and it seems to be working.
Yeah, that's exactly the same thing he said last time as well. 99 out of 100 pitches were called by McCann, and he didn't have to call anything. I just kind of want to go back to that fastball thing. In 2023, 58% of his fastballs were in zone, and that had, by 2024, that had already dropped to 51%. And it was in a similar range before the last 2 starts. For this start, 59%.
Yeah, I looked at that number too. That's pretty much the sweet spot. I mean, you don't need to throw every single fastball in the zone, but Zac Gallen seems to be throwing just enough strikes with that fastball. And yeah, I honestly think he got away with a few in this game, Jack. There were a few basically right down the middle that were just singles, and you feel like could have been worse, or pitches that were fouled back or whatever. But what you really want to see with Zac Gallen, as the stadium lights go off behind me, what you really want to see with Zac Gallen more than anything is just a willingness to attack the zone and not be afraid to come into the zone. And Zac Gallen was certainly willing to do that in this game. The other thing that really stood out to me tonight, Jack, we know that Gallen's biggest weapon is his curveball. It has been for a long time, and that pitch looked every bit like an elite out pitch at this level. I think it was 7 whiffs on 9 swings. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it was 7 whiffs on 9 swings at some point in the game, which is ridiculous. That continues to look like an emerging weapon for him once again.
Yeah, it was kind of like in Rocky 2 when, he wasn't throwing his left hand and he was, jabbing with his left and trying to go with the right hook instead, and had his hand tied. Well, that's what it was a little bit like. He was holding back that curveball early on, and then he went to it. and dominated with it. I think that's where the unpredictableness came in. You talked about there were 6 balls over 100 miles an hour and 8 over 95, but that's
Yeah.
okay. You know what? If he doesn't walk batters and he attacks the zone and gets a swing and miss with the curveball, and he gets knocked around 1 out of 4 or 5 starts and it doesn't scare him out of the strike zone, I'll be very happy with that version of Zac Gallen for the long term.
There's a point made in the chat about Gallen's fastball velo being up a little bit as well. Not up by a huge amount, but it was up. His stuff was up velocity-wise across the board. He averaged 94.0 in this game. That's up 0.8 miles per hour over his 93.2 average for the season. So that is noteworthy. The numbers on the curveball that I alluded to earlier was 7 whiffs on 11 swings when all was said and done. He only threw 14% of his curveballs in the zone, Jack, and yet he got 14 strikes on that pitch out of 22 pitches. I mean, that's pretty much exactly what you want to see with that curveball. Is he's throwing it generally out of the strike zone, but he's getting a ton of chase with it. And we certainly saw a ton of that in this game. So a huge step forward, another step forward here for Zac Gallen as he's put 2 of these starts, 2 very, very good starts in consecutively at this point. He talked after the game, of course, about feeling really encouraged by that. So, we'll get in more later, Jack, into the buy versus sell conversation and how all of these different things kind of fit together. But I think we can say that whether the Diamondbacks buy or sell, Zac Gallen pitching well is a big positive development for this team.
Yeah, nothing bad's going to come out of that whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, of course, Zac Gallen didn't pitch the entire game, though. That's not how baseball works. And things did get a little interesting in the later innings there, Jack. I believe it was Gallen getting 18 outs and allowing 6 base runners. And then the bullpen had only gotten 6 outs by the time it allowed 6 base runners. It didn't take all that long. Juan Murillo, I guess you got to tip your cap at the end of the day because he did not allow a run after he entered the game in a tricky spot in the 8th inning. But you'd maybe like it to look a little better than it looked in this game. He ended with 17 pitches and 5 of them being strikes.
Yeah, Torrey said that he didn't even arrive until the 6th inning. I wasn't aware that he got there that late. I was actually wondering, did he travel with the team on the taxi squad, or how did he get there so quickly? So I was a little curious about that. So we got our answer in the postgame from Torrey, what we were able to catch on the television. So, got to kind of give the guy a little bit more slack too. I mean, arrive in the 6th inning, run out to the bullpen, get hot, and then go in the game in the 8th. I mean, that's kind of pushing things a little bit. But that's what, he's left to at this point. Trying to extend back is having to force Murillo into a situation where you normally wouldn't want him to throw. And Torrey said after the game, hey, this is what I need from these guys. I mean, barring some big trade deadline buys, there's nobody coming through that door to rescue them. These are the guys he has, and he's got to find ways to maximize these guys' confidence and ability to go out there in these situations. And you don't get there by always being protected from them. Not that he had a choice anyway. Where else was he going to go? I mean, maybe he could have gone to Ginkel for the 4-out save. There's no options there really at this point. But silver lining to a rough couple innings was that they figured out a way to get through it.
They did, yeah. It was a bit of a roller coaster ride. Torrey did say after the game that Elias Diaz was going to be Juan Murillo's last hitter. Understandably, at that point, if Murillo was not able to get that out, Torrey said he would have asked Kevin Ginkel for a 4-out save and just had him come in to face Fernando Tatis. Can certainly understand the mindset there. But I will add, Jack, that some people talked to Juan Murillo himself after the game, and he said he didn't arrive until the 7th inning, which makes the whole situation all the more chaotic because he pitched in the 8th inning, and apparently he arrived in the 7th. So I think given the circumstances, you could maybe give him a pass for not looking his sharpest. So. Yeah, I think that's warranted. But it doesn't change the larger picture that, the reason, as we discussed the other day, the Diamondbacks reasoning and sending him down, as much as it might have felt a little bit puzzling, it was because of outings like this happening a little bit too often where he just can't find the strike zone. And at that point, it doesn't matter if you throw 100 miles an hour if it's just uncompetitive most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, he was sent out for a reason. I kind of reminded our friends on X platform, that this is what Mike Hazen and Torrey were talking about when they did send him out. They were looking for more consistency. I think they were hoping that the consistent workload in Reno would allow him to refine his delivery just a little bit and get some more consistency in the delivery, so that he could throw some more strikes. So like you said, we got to give him a pass because of what happened with the travel and getting there so late. That 154-foot pitch that skidded along the grass and past McCann, I don't know.
Wasn't great.
That was a little scary, but he got out of it. So, moving on.
Well, of course, we have news on Shelby Miller as well as Ketel Marte. We'll get into those topics as well as a whole lot more on the other side of this break.
Kratz, we talk about HelloFresh a lot, but in the same fam is another option for you if you're looking to go on your little wellness journey or you're very picky in terms of what you're looking for ingredients-wise. You can go Green Chef this summer.
And I can heat and eat because this summer I've got like 3 days where I'm not doing anything. I'm sure those are going to get scheduled with something. Let's give me something super quick that I can heat up. The whole family's eating healthy and they're full.
Menus change weekly, 80-plus dietitian-approved weekly meal options. Green Chef makes it easy to find those meals to fit your lifestyle, so go check it out. FT fam, there is an exclusive offer. Make this summer your healthiest yet with Green Chef. Head to greenchef.com/50territory and use code 50territory to get 50% off your first month, then 20% off for 2 months with free shipping. That's code 50territory at greenchef.com/50territory.
Well, of course, Jack, nothing comes easy for the 2025 Diamondbacks, it feels like. And when something is going good, it probably means that something is going just as bad in another sense. And that was certainly the case today for the Diamondbacks, as Shelby Miller was placed on the 15-day injured list with a right forearm strain, a move that was announced shortly before the game started, hence why Juan Murillo didn't arrive until the 7th inning. This is another crushing blow for this team, Jack. There's really no way around it.
Yeah, it's really hard to fathom, why. I mean, yes, he's been used a fair amount, but, it's 36 innings. It's not like he's on pace for 90. I think he's done 36 or 37 innings this year. They have managed to get him, 2-3 straight days off whenever they could. He pitched the other day. We were a little curious why he pitched in that game. And then we come to find out that Ryan Thompson was going on the IL. So that's why Miller had to pitch, because originally it looked like it was going to be, a 4-run save chance. And then, of course, they scored more runs. So he was already warmed up and they brought him in. In case anyone was wondering why Shelby Miller pitched in that game, the 7-1 game, that's why. I don't know the answer here. I don't know what's going on or why so many guys are coming down hurt all at the same time. Everybody wants to blame the training staff or the pitching coach. I'm not saying it. There's nothing wrong with their training methods or what they're trying to do. I just don't know enough about them to connect that line. And correlation does not equal causation, and that's just kind of where we're at with that one.
Torrey, of course, talked about this after the game, and he said there's no timeline at this point for Shelby Miller. Obviously, this just happened. He said that Shelby first felt this after that outing that you referenced earlier on Saturday. After that game is when he felt it. And then today, you see things at times where it looks like guys might be hurt in the clubhouse or on the field during pregame warmups, but you don't necessarily want to read too much into it until something really happens. But we did see Shelby Miller kind of making this odd motion with his kind of forearm / elbow, trying to loosen it up or something. He was walking around the clubhouse doing that. And I will say that it kind of piqued my interest a little bit. It seemed a little odd to me at the time, although I didn't think much of it. And then during pregame warmups, there was a moment where Shelby Miller came off the field with one of the Diamondbacks trainers. And that also had me wondering, like, okay, these things do happen. Maybe it's nothing, but the roster move was announced shortly thereafter. So this was something that Shelby, again, first felt on Saturday, but as he was preparing for the game today, I guess is when it really was something that he knew he couldn't play through. The Diamondbacks made the roster move. We don't have much beyond that other than to say that Torey Lovullo, when asked about his concern level, said not low. He didn't say high. He said somewhere in the middle, somewhere right in the middle, I think were his exact words. But obviously, there's not an assumption here that Shelby Miller is going to be out the minimum 15 days and that's it. This certainly could be a larger issue for him.
Yeah, I mean, these types of forearm strains, I mean, all you have to do is look at the injury databases. I mean, nobody's out 2 weeks with a forearm strain.
No.
It's 4 weeks, it's 6 weeks, it's 8 weeks if it's not the worst case scenario.
As far as Ketel Marte is concerned, the update there is certainly less alarming. Torey said that he expects Ketel to be back in the lineup tomorrow. At least he probably will be back in the lineup tomorrow. I think his exact word on that. So it's a wait and see situation there. Nothing else to say really on Ketel, and the Diamondbacks were able to win the game without him. So we'll continue to monitor that situation with his groin, but nothing too alarming at that point, or at least as of right now.
Yeah, just as a heads up, I mean, and a reminder, about a month ago, or maybe even a little less than a month ago, Ketel had to sit out a game because of a tight groin muscle. First, we thought it was a hamstring, and then it turned out that was the groin tightening up on him as well. So, they've really got to be careful there, because you actually pull a groin muscle, boom, you're gone a month.
Yeah.
So if they have to give him more time off and figure out ways to get him a little bit more loosened up, I don't know the answer there either. I mean, he's one big giant muscle from the waist down. I mean, he's so built there. So it's going to be tough. But my concern level is not too low because I just feel like this has the potential to be something that just continues to nag him and continues to recur. Groin injuries, man, they just keep coming back.
I know there was a video floating around. We didn't confirm the exact origins of this injury, but there's a video floating around of Ketel in the game yesterday, Sunday, against the Royals, where it looked like he tweaked his groin. So I think it's a fair assumption that's kind of the origin story there, something that happened on Sunday, and during pregame warmups today, he felt like he couldn't go. That decision was made after our pregame meet up with Torey Lovullo. So a lot of news happened between then and when this game actually started. But I guess broadening the conversation here, Jack, Shelby Miller, I think best case scenario is going to be out more than the minimum 15 days, right? I mean, I think it's pretty fair to say that. You're probably looking at a month or more. Pure speculation, but, fairly well-educated speculation, I think. And obviously the trade deadline is less than a month away. So if the Diamondbacks decide to sell, that's one less piece that you would have to sell, certainly. And on the flip side, this team without Shelby Miller, I mean, if they were in a buy scenario somehow, if they play well over the next few weeks, I mean, you need a lot of bullpen help on this team. I mean, what we saw tonight, I know they were able to come away with a win, but it was not pretty. And if you want to have like a solid 7, 8, 9 that you feel good about, even if some of the other arms aren't as consistent as you'd like, I mean, I don't know if we know who any of those guys are at this point, given the state of this bullpen right now.
Yeah, well, our good friends in the chat, they're kind of been running down the names of some of the usual suspects. You got Bautista from the Orioles has been mentioned, David Bednar, of course, Kyle Finnegan. I don't mean to be morbid. I was looking up something the other day. Yesterday, I just happened to be looking at the 2018 trade deadline. Because I was looking at actually for a story I did on Manny Machado almost going to the Diamondbacks, or follow up on Jesse Rogers' story. And one of the things I, kind of was reminded of is that July, Mike Hazen brought in Matt Andriese and Jake Diekman and Brad Ziegler. And Ziegler was okay, but it was his last year, and he wasn't the same Brad Ziegler he was before. And, Diekman was a tire fire, and so was Andriese, like 7 and 9 ERAs, and and
Yeah.
these were good pitchers beforehand. So I mean, Mike kind of went all in to improve his bullpen in July of 2018, picked up 3 pretty good leverage relievers, and got burned by all 3. So just keep that in mind. Like, no matter who they pick up, any reliever can do anything in 20 innings. But maybe they go out and pick up 2 relievers, a closer type and another good high-end reliever. Goes on a unbelievable run over the next 2 weeks, surprising the heck out of everybody and enticing Mike to just go for it. Maybe that happens.
Ernesto in the chat said it would be such a D-backs thing that the bullpen suddenly settles down with these particular arms. Yeah, I mean, there isn't, I mean, to your point, there's an element of randomness to this where, yes, you can acquire a great relief pitcher and over 2 months they can be pretty mediocre or even pretty bad. And the same is true with a team of relievers that on paper doesn't look great. I mean, maybe there's a world where somehow this comes together without the Diamondbacks making some big changes. But realistically, I don't know if that's going to happen. And you feel like for the D-backs, Jack, as they continue to weigh whether they're going to buy or sell, certainly they're not making that decision on July 7th. So we're not here to make any official declarations. But not having Shelby Miller in the fold, that probably pushes you more in the sell direction, at least a little bit. It's not like, oh, they're definitely selling because they just lost their, the one truly reliable reliever they had. But it doesn't exactly help the case to buy when it's just another thing that you would have to try to find a way to replace in the trade market.
Yeah, it's a needle mover, and it's not in the right direction. That's for sure. How much? I think it's fairly significant. I think that if they were still 50-50 on the fence, they should not be at this point. They should at least be like 60-40 leaning sell. I mean, that's where I'd be.
Yeah, well, on that note, we can take a look at the standings. All of the games around Major League Baseball as a whole are complete as of right now. This is where the Diamondbacks stand, and it might seem odd that they just beat the team that was in that third wild card spot as of the start of play today, and they didn't gain a game. They're still 4.5 games out of that third wild card spot, and it's because the Giants and Padres were effectively tied entering today, and the Giants won. So the Diamondbacks gained on the Padres, but they didn't gain on the Giants. So they're still 4.5 games out of the third wild card. And this is another topic that came up in pregame today as we were talking with Torey Lovello, Jack, that Torey is continuing to tell Mike Hazen to just wait, to just give him as much time as he possibly can before deciding to go for it on any big trade packages that are maybe coming in for all these guys that other teams want. And I don't know how inclined Mike Hazen would be to accept those offers right now anyway. We know that he also wants to be aggressive here, but this is definitely, at least looking at those standings right now, I mean, it doesn't really scream buy right now. I think right now you'd lean the other direction, as you just said.
Yeah, I mean, look, the time isn't running out on the season, but time is most definitely running out on the trade deadline.
Yeah.
And that's the fulcrum point. So it's late. I mean, if they go on a 7-game winning streak and the Giants go 4-3, they're still a game and a half back of the Giants.
Right.
I mean, that's how difficult a spot they're in. And, how we are still waiting to see this mythical 7 or 8 game winning streak. They haven't had one longer than 5, and it's been a long time since they had that. And, I'm not criticizing their effort or anything. I mean, just week after week, another guy goes down and they're doing the best they can. I'm actually really impressed by how they just refuse to die, roll over and die. It's pretty impressive. But, I still am having a tough time. And I know it's a failure of imagination, but I can't imagine where or how that 7 or 8 game winning streak that's going to propel them to be on the cusp of a playoff spot and therefore entice their general manager to actually go and hard buy. I don't see how that comes. And so I think that the team, as much as, forward facing with the media, and internally, what management faces Torey faces the players and coaches, they have to push, they have to try to put up not a front, but, put forth a positive attitude. But there's just no way in the back office there aren't people, combing over every possible scenario and scouting what players they want to try to pick up if they trade Zach or Merrill or Eugenio or Josh, or anyone. I mean,
Right.
they're looking into all of this. Yes, they've been fielding calls about people wanting their players. It's not like they're not figuring out, well, if they do sell their players, who they're going to get back, who they might like. We don't know. We can guess, but it's just a guess, and it's always going to be somebody different than we think.
Torey, after this game, talked about just the Diamondbacks pile up of injuries as a whole this season. And he said, I've been in this game a long time, almost 30 years, and I've never seen anything like this. Those are his exact words. And I mean, this is a Diamondbacks team that last year, we were talking about injuries burning this team a year ago. I mean, last year was pretty rough too. You lost almost your entire rotation for decent chunk of the season, but it has felt like an even, totally different level this year with what we've seen, especially on the pitching side, with all the elbow injuries and all these guys missing not only this year, but big portions or even all of next year as well. So I know that the Diamondbacks are certainly going to be frustrated with this, Jack, but I don't think Torey throws those words around willy-nilly. He really is, you can sense there is quite a bit of frustration with what at sometimes just kind of feels like luck. I know a lot of people in the chat are convinced that this Diamondbacks training staff is responsible for all of these injuries. We've said already, as you talked about earlier, that we just don't really have the information to actually make that type of accusation. But it really is remarkable when you just sort of look at a list of all of these injuries that have piled up, what this team is going through right now.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not privy to every single aspect of their training regimens and prevention regimens, and I'm not an expert in those areas. So, if I withhold judgment in that area, again, I just want to emphasize, it's not because I'm saying it doesn't exist or it can't exist. I'm saying I have no evidence that it exists. The mere fact that the injuries have happened is not the evidence.
Yeah, that's very well said. Well, we have more to get to. We're going to talk about some takeaways from the Royals series, as well as some more injury stuff, maybe a couple final notes on tonight's game as well. Don't go anywhere. This is Snakes Territory. Nothing says summer like long days, clutch plays, and firing off a few bets on the game, all with DraftKings Sportsbook. If you've never bet on baseball before, it's easy. Pick a guy to go yard, hammer some live odds mid-game, or just ride with your squad and hope for the best. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code FOUL. That's code FOUL for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. 21 plus, age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario, new customers only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
Hey, I just want to acknowledge a discussion that's happening in the chat. Sean, mentioned whether or not they might do what they did in 2019.
Sure.
Buy, sell. And we've talked about that for several episodes. I call it the buy, sell two-step. And it's probably the most likely scenario. But even within a buy-sell scenario, you can kind of lean one way or the other. And this isn't 2019 because they don't have a massive Zac Gallen contract to sell. I mean, They got guys on expiring contracts. So it's kind of a different situation. And Zac Gallen was having a very good year in 2019. at the trade deadline when he was sold. It was just a matter of getting off his salary. So it's kind of, yes, in general theory, the buy-sell scenario is probably what they'll end up doing. But how that looks exactly and if it leans one way or the other, again, we'll wait and see.
It's not hard to imagine Mike exclusively buying in it. Like if the Diamondbacks are in the third wild card spot somehow in 3 weeks, I mean, that's what they would do, right? I mean, they're not going to sell Gino Suarez if they're in a playoff spot, no matter what they could get for him. It's just not going to happen. But on the flip side, yeah, I think it's hard to imagine Mike going full on sell. It feels like, even if the Diamondbacks are selling off some of these expiring contracts, they're going to be looking for players who can help them soon, and in some cases probably could help them immediately. Wouldn't surprise me at all if there was at least, a major league ready player here or there involved in those trades.
Sure, he's out scouring for his next Zac Gallen.
Right.
He needs controllable pitching for next year.
Which we learned in this Jesse Rogers story that you alluded to earlier, that apparently Mike Hazen almost traded Jazz Chisholm for Manny Machado in 2018, in which case Zac Gallen would never have been on this baseball team, which is kind of a crazy thing to think about. One thing I wanted to touch on before we talk about the Royals series just briefly is the age-old question, Jack, that it feels like Torey Lovullo is asked about 18 times every season, and that is, who is your closer? Because the Diamondbacks are once again in a situation where they do not have an established closer at the back end of games. Kevin Ginkel was able to do the job tonight. He was able to get a double play to end the inning. It was fairly quick when all was said and done, even though it didn't start on a great note with a leadoff walk and then what would have been a home run in like half of Major League Parks. Jackson Merrill hit that ball a long way, and Alek Thomas was able to make a really nice catch there. But yeah, Kevin Ginkel was the guy to get the first shot, and he was able to do the job tonight. We asked Torey about this after the game, and he basically talked about a committee situation where, depending on if it's right, left, right, or left, right, left, Jalen Beeks, Kyle Backus, Kevin Ginkel, I think all of those names appear to be in the mix. I kind of feel like Kevin Ginkel maybe has the edge here, just given that he has pitched a little better lately and he has experience in this role, whereas really nobody else in that group does at this point. But I don't know. We've seen the committee thing a whole lot here, Jack, over the past few years, and maybe that is where the Diamondbacks will land.
For right now, he doesn't have a choice. I mean, he's going to have to go committee.
Yeah.
He just doesn't. There's no other way around it. He's going to go by committee and try to match things up the best he can based on availability. When did Ginkel pitch on Sunday, by the way? I can't remember.
I don't think Ginkel pitched on Sunday. I can check real quick.
I mean, I think that it's really important, to take into account the fact that they're going to have to use guys sometimes in the 8th, sometimes in the 9th. They're going to be used on back-to-backs, and there's no clear-cut answer here. You just can't say, oh, well, Kevin Ginkel is going to be my closer, and everyone else is going to set up in front of him. It's just not going to work that way.
Yeah. It was a little alarming when Ginkel came out and you see his stats show up on the screen, and it's a save situation, and you have a guy out there with a 9.49 ERA. I mean, I don't think any of us believe that that's really representative of the pitcher that Kevin Ginkel is, but there's no getting around the fact that the results this year have just been off the charts terrible, and yet he's the one being called upon in that spot. I mean, that's just kind of the state of this group right now.
It's down from 13.5, so.
Yeah, that is true. I tweeted this out before the game as well. The only member of the Diamondbacks bullpen at this point who has spent the entire season in the majors is Jalen Beeks. And even Jalen Beeks was not really assured a roster spot in spring training, right? To his credit, he earned it, and he's managed to stay up in the big leagues the whole year. But everyone else, Jack, all the other 7 members of this current bullpen, every single one of them has spent time in the minors this year. And for a lot of them, they've spent more time in the minors than they have in the big leagues. That's true for Backus. It's true for Jake Woodford, for Anthony DeSclafani, for Bryce Jarvis. Kevin Ginkel's a guy who I believe does have more major league innings than minor league innings, even though he was optioned. So, it's just wild looking at this list right now on paper.
The other thing, too, is, as you just go through those names, right now they have 3 long relievers, which is really odd. Right, DeSclafani, Woodford, and Jarvis are long relievers at this point. You've only got 5 short guys.
Yeah, it doesn't really make any sense at all. But are they gonna replace some of these guys? Like, are they gonna go sign someone else away who has an opt out and hasn't been called up to the majors yet with another team? There just aren't that many of these guys out there that are all that attractive, and that's why the Diamondbacks are in this position in the first place. I do want to transition to the Royals series. We haven't talked about that at all here on Snakes Territory just yet. We don't have to dwell on much here, Jack, but I do think it's worth, on the positive note, talking about Ryne Nelson, who looked absolutely dominant in his outing on Saturday. 7 innings. When all was said and done, he had 5 strikeouts in that game, just 4 hits allowed. He was perfect through 4 or 5 innings, and that's just kind of the pitcher that Ryne Nelson has been lately, Jack. He has really been an anchor for this team.
From July 2nd of last year till this past outing, 157 innings, 3.3 ERA, I believe. That's not exactly right, it's going to be right in there. I'm going off memory. He's been the best pitcher on the team for a full calendar year. It's not even debatable or arguable.
No.
Whether or not he'll keep it going forward, the good news is that his FIP, and the projectables metrics, they all say, hey, it's pretty legit. They're in line with what his actual run prevention is. So good news there. I think he's going to also have the handcuffs taken off a little bit in this next outing. If not the next one, and the one after that, he should be allowed to get up over 90 pitches soon. So, and they're going to need it because the guy right above him on the screen here, Eduardo Rodriguez, fell back into his inconsistency. 4 1/3, 12 hits, 9 runs. He struck out 7 guys. He said, well, my location was bad. I didn't have, he was saying my command was bad, and it's amazing. So you didn't walk anybody and had 7 strikeouts. How was your command bad? But it was bad in the middle of the zone. He was just leaving pitches in the middle of the zone and getting drilled.
That's been a trend for Eduardo really ever since he became a Diamondback, is that he will rack up some strikeouts, and he's not necessarily out there walking a whole lot of guys, but he does really get hurt in the zone when he just throws pitches that aren't on. He's generally pretty good at hitting the edges, but if he doesn't hit the edges, then there's a lot of potential for damage there. That was a really ugly game for him on Friday. And then to round out the starting pitching over the weekend, Anthony DeSclafani made the start on Sunday. The Diamondbacks decided to push everybody back a day. They're in a stretch right now where they don't have an off day going into the All-Star break. So you can understand where they're coming from there. Torey was asked about this before today's game, and he said we weren't trying to just line up Zac Gallen to start against the Padres instead of the Royals. We were just trying to get everybody an extra day off. So DeSclafani was good for 3 innings, and then he gave up 4 runs and had 6 strikeouts in that game. Diamondbacks ultimately didn't score at all on Sunday, so I guess it didn't really matter how good Anthony DeSclafani was. It's hard to win when you don't score anything at all.
Yeah, I think also we should mention that the impetus to get that extra day, that came from the front office. Like, that wasn't Torey's brainchild. That came from the front office, that at this point in time in the season, they want to give everybody that extra time. So, just take it for what it's worth. These are all group decisions at best, and a lot of it comes down from on top.
The other big thing that happened over the weekend is that Corbin Carroll, he played in a complex league game, and then shortly thereafter, he was back in the lineup for the Diamondbacks, certainly ahead of schedule from what we expected. He did not look like himself over the weekend. He was 0 for 9 with 5 strikeouts, took the golden sombrero in the finale of that Royals series. But then he looked a whole lot more like himself today, Jack. He went 2 for 5 with a double and a triple. And in 4 out of his 5 at bats, I think he hit a line drive at over 100 miles per hour off the bat. So Corbin looks like he got his timing right once again tonight.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. I mean, if he's back, hitting the ball over 100 miles an hour, and Ketel really is good to go tomorrow, then that'll go a long way. You know, the offense coming into tonight over the previous 5 games had hit 202 and only scored 17 runs. So one of my concerns heading into the series was, you know, is the offense now finally starting to flag a bit, and you know, no longer able to make up for the poor run prevention. You know, because if that happens, you know, if the offense takes a downturn, then they're really in trouble, because I don't expect the overall run prevention to get that much better. You know, so certainly getting Corbin back and having him smoking the ball again, back to himself. I was a little worried about it in the first inning when he struck out.
Yeah.
But he was just getting fooled by Darvish breaking pitches there.
Yeah, we've seen a few Diamondbacks hitters have that happen to them over the years, that's for sure. But yeah, a really positive step tonight for Corbin Carroll, totally looking like the hitter that we've seen for most of the season. Of course, he and Gino Suarez were named to the All-Star game officially over the weekend, so congratulations to both of them. Very well deserved. The other player who has been banged up recently but looked much better tonight was Josh Naylor. He reached base 5 times in this game, a home run, a 2-run shot, and then he walked twice and was also hit by a pitch. It's not often we see Josh Naylor work some extended, patient at bats, Jack, but we did see that tonight. It was good to see from him.
Yeah. And I think we better touch on the Pavin Smith and Ryan Thompson injuries as well. You know, Pavin Smith has an oblique injury, and as we know, obliques take time. Those are really tough to heal. I think Christian Walker missed almost a month last year with an oblique injury, correct? It's close to it anyway. And, you know, so he's going to be out a while. I know that Pavin had been slumping for a long time, and a lot of people were calling for Randall Grichuk to get that playing time anyway. We'll see how it works. They got 5 outfielders right now. It's going to be interesting to see Torrey mix and match and slide guys around and take turns putting guys at DH and giving guys day off. But, you know, most of the time the DH spot is going to be occupied by a right-handed hitter, even when there's a right-handed pitcher on the mound. That's just the roster they have right now. Tristan English was called up. 28-year-old has great numbers in Reno. I usually don't expect anything near that, especially for prospects over 25. The list is long of guys that have put up over 25 years old that put up big numbers in the Pacific Coast League and then come here and don't hit. So, but he's been a good ball player and he's been super hot all year. So we'll see if sitting on the bench cools him off. And then Ryan Thompson, you know, here we go again, another reliever down. This is a scapular strain. That's an upper back or shoulder strain. It's a shoulder issue. You know, they like to kind of leave the word shoulder out of it. Oh, it's upper back.
Back sounds better than shoulder.
You know, and again, I mean, they just, you know, Thompson had been up and down, no doubt, but, you know, been pitching somewhat better, and they really needed him as well. And so just another blow, losing Thompson and Miller basically within a span of 3 days. I don't know how they're going to overcome it. We'll see.
Will be a tall task for sure. We'll see what things look like here over the next few weeks. The Diamondbacks have 3 more games coming up this week against the San Diego Padres. Then they finish out the first half of the season against the Angels out in Anaheim. So will be interesting to see if they're able to carry some positive momentum into the All-Star break next week. We will be back here with another post-game show tomorrow night. So we really appreciate all of you being here with us. We see all of your comments flying through in the chat. If you're joining us after the fact, of course, you can still drop a comment. We'd love to interact with you that way as well. But yeah, join us again tomorrow night. Same place, roughly same time. Again, it'll kind of depend on how long it takes downstairs talking to Torey Lovello and the Diamondbacks players after the game. So we appreciate all of you being patient after the game as I ran down there and then ran back up here and got everything set up. But we really appreciate all of you being here once again. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel, drop a like on this video, and again, leave a comment if you're watching after the fact. You can find us on social media. I am at Jesse N. Friedman. Jack is at ShoeWizard59, and our show is at Snakes Territory. Jack does a great job covering the Diamondbacks over at si.com/MLB/Diamondbacks. So be sure to check out his site if you have not already. Jack, any other thoughts here on this Monday night?
Yes, one major oversight. If you can go and find different camera angles of Alek Thomas's catch, the more angles you see of it, the more you're going to be impressed. I mean, he basically had his back turned, stuck his arm out and glanced over his shoulder and caught that ball. Yes, the ball hung up in the air for a while, but that was really a tremendous catch, and I saw a couple more angles of it, and the more I saw, the more impressed I was, and it was a game saver.
Well, I'm about to go tap our friend Steve Gilbert from MLB.com on the shoulder and ask him for the catch probability on the Alek Thomas catch, because he has access to this information and we don't. I have a feeling, Jack, it's going to be one of those plays where the catch probability is like 70 or 80% or something. But like you're saying, when you actually watch the play, it doesn't feel like that's actually accurate. So maybe we'll report back tomorrow and see what the percentage was. But those plays do tend to happen pretty often with catch probability, it seems like.
Yeah, well, the catch probability also doesn't have a ability to take account for Corbin Carroll barreling down on him either.
Yeah, that's fair. That is probably not factored in at all. And that was, I was a little... It looked like there could be a potentially bad collision in that spot. Fortunately, that was not the case. But yes, anyway, thank you again to all of you for being with us here tonight. We really appreciate it. We hope you'll join us again tomorrow night for another post-game show. But until then, thanks again for being with us, and we'll see you back here on Snakes Territory very, very soon.
Good night.